I just believe that I am exactly where I'm supposed to be, and I love the patient care that I provide.
Welcome to the HT podcast. I thought you were going to do the introduction.
It's okay.
I'll do it now. I guess I'm in charge now. Thank you very much. My name is Doan PNH, and this is
Doan PNH.
And today we have Julie with us.
Yes.
And you can just introduce yourself and kind of give us your background a little bit, if you don't mind.
Let's open this first.
Oh, yeah. I always forget that.
Yes.
That's why I don't do the intro.
1, 2, 3. Nice. Cheers.
Cheers.
One day Coke will sponsor us. One day.
I'll quit my job.
Thank you.
So, Julie, why don't you give us a quick introduction about yourself? Anything you want us to know?
Yeah. How many years you were in Thieu Nhi, and what kind of occupation you have, and how long you've been in the occupation?
Okay, sure. My name is Doan Julie. I have been a Huynh Trưởng at our Doan since 2020. I went to camp in 2019, but my promotion got pushed to the full year after that. So officially 2020. I was the previous Doan Phang Hien Huan, and I am the upcoming Doan Phang Hien Huan as well.
Okay.
The last ngan that I taught was Hipsi, but I've been through Oan Nhi and Thieu Nhi as well. And yeah, in 2023, I graduated from Seattle University with a Bachelor of Science in Nursing, and I have been a labor and delivery nurse since.
Nice. So you said you became a Huynh Trưởng in 2020, right? Was that, did COVID have anything to do with it? Would they get pushed further down in the year, or when was that?
Yes. So I went to camp in September of 2019 and was hoping to get promoted like March-ish at the beginning of the following academic year. But that got pushed back because we didn't have Sinh until... Actually, I don't even think we had Sinh at all that year. We just found a date. Yeah, we just found a date to promote, and we did it in September.
Oh, okay, nice.
And you became a leader in the BTV pretty quickly, So
Yeah.
how was it being like kind of almost a new Huynh Trưởng, and dang, you're like in a leadership position?
I would say it was pretty difficult, especially because the years that I did start as Huynh Trưởng were different. They were kind of adjusted to what our Doan was doing. So we did like an online model for like the first year, and then when we did go in person, I think we ended our year short. So I just had those 2 years before I was voted in to the board. So it was difficult, but I feel like I adjusted okay.
Nice, great. And you've also been in Thieu Nhi since you were in Oan Nhi, right?
Yeah.
So quite a while now.
Yep, since Oan Nhi Ka Mo. So I think that was really helpful. At least I knew kind of what I was going into, and I saw what other Jungs before me were doing in the board, at least. So I had some background.
Yeah. You know what's really crazy? I'm old enough now where, I was the Huynh Trưởng when these kids were in.
These kids.
That's what it is.
Yeah. Does that make you tear up to see?
It's actually really nice seeing the kids who are in our Doan grow up between Oan Nhi, Thieu Nhi, Nghia Si, and then becoming Huynh Trưởng. Yeah,
and you were Huynh Trưởng when Julie was...
Probably.
Oh, wow.
I don't think I remember you in anything else.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, this year, Vian is going to be Doan Trưởng, and Julie is going to be working with him. So you see this whole generation of Oan Nhi up to Huynh Trưởng, and still, this guy is still here. So I applaud you. So I can't wait. We need to do another podcast later on at the end of the year, so I can get all the trashy, bad details behind the scene of leadership of this guy from you. Right. Okay. Cool. So you went into nursing. Is that something that was kind of pushed upon you, or something that you just kind of wanted to do this whole time?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it was pushed. I think it was a little bit set up just because my oldest sister is a nurse. And so I pretty much followed her exact track. Not because anyone told me to. I think it was just, I was inspired by her. Cheesy, I know.
I mean, that's what happens. Thieu Nhi kids are inspired by the Huynh Trưởng, and then you are inspired by your sister, for sure. So that's a very common thing. Yeah.
Even though we have like a huge age gap between us, she's 11 years older than I am. So she went through that when I was young, and then I kind of had to just ask her again like 10 years later when it came to be my turn. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I don't think I can imagine myself doing anything else.
And you and her went to the same school too.
Right? Yes. Yep.
And how many years of schooling is that? I think it's typical? Is it 4 years? Is it more after 4 years of college or?
Both. Taman and I did a 4-year degree just because it's Seattle University has like a direct admission to nursing.
Nice.
But RN school in general is just 2 years. You can have an RN without a bachelor's degree.
Gotcha.
Didn't know that.
So you went 4 years total and you're a nurse after that.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So you didn't have to do the 6 years that some people would.
So like if they did the bachelor's and then they did RN nursing, like
So you don't. So there's just like prerequisites. So
Gotcha.
sometimes people do that at like a community college, or a university, and then they transfer into an RN school. My
Gotcha.
program just happened to be 4 years.
Oh, I got you.
Gotcha.
I got you.
Yeah. So my first 2 years were still prerequisites.
Gotcha. So most of the time it's 4 years then.
so then that means when you graduated and started working, you said a couple years now, right? 2-3 years now.
A year and a half.
Year and a half.
I just
okay.
met a year.
So
and a half.
that means we're basically just coming out of the pandemic, right? So how was finding the job market at that time?
Oh, I think it was really good for us, at least, because there's always going to be a need for nursing, whether it's inpatient or outpatient. I was fortunate enough to be able to do my clinicals after the pandemic, so it was kind of murky. I started my clinicals, which happens during school, in 2021 or 2022. So hospitals were just starting to accept students again in training. So I had some of that background. And then when I graduated, there was like listings everywhere.
Nice.
So,
Yeah,
That's lucky.
That's so lucky.
Compared, I mean, plus it's also nursing, not like it's something other degrees, like, compared to today. For example, computer science or other tech jobs who are struggling
Or
today.
pharmacists.
Really, no way.
Yeah, a little bit. But I assume I always hear that nursing tends to be in high demand. And it's one of the most trusted profession. And I assume that's one of the reasons that you also picked it. So
Well, not for the money, right? I mean,
yes, I always tell people if I was in it for the money, I would not be in healthcare.
but there are specific specialties in healthcare that could make a lot of money.
Yeah.
Right? Including nursing, right? Would you ever consider going into those specialties or going into more education?
I have considered it. I think I really like my specialty. So something around like perinatal health. But higher education I have considered. I used to, or when I was in school, I really wanted to become like a nurse practitioner or a midwife. I think I might still want to pursue it, but not right now.
Gotcha.
Like I really love what I do right now and where I'm at.
Gotcha.
So.
Just for the audience, what's the difference between like a nurse like you are right now and like a nurse practitioner or a midwife?
Okay. So there's different scopes of practice for each, for a registered nurse and a nurse practitioner. Nurse practitioners are advanced practitioners, so they kind of have a lot more authority in like prescribing or diagnosing, whereas nursing, I don't even know how to describe it. We can't diagnose, we can't prescribe, we can't write our own orders.
So doctor's orders for everything.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So the normal nurses, I think what you always see is like on TV and stuff when they're helping the doctor out. But advanced nurse practitioner can actually sit in clinic or even round with the doctors and everything and be like a doctor themselves, right? So I think that's the main thing. So if they want to move into higher, they want to be more patient engaged without needing a doctor all the time and be a provider is what they say. And that's what Julie is not thinking about yet, but maybe in the future she might be doing it. Just because I think it's a higher level education and also it might potentially be making more money at the end of the day, is what I assume. So, and you also hear stuff like nurse anesthetist, which is like one of the highest paying nursing job that you can do. And it seems like at the end, when someone has a high level expertise in one thing, they tend to move towards that kind of nurse anesthetist to make a lot of money. So, but you're not considering it now, I guess, because you're kind of newly out.
Oh yeah, for sure. I am really comfortable where I am. Well, I'm comfortable, but I'm still learning so much. Like even though I'm like a year and a half into my career, I still have so much to learn. And I think there's a study somewhere I read it in nursing school that new nurses actually don't feel confident or like fully confident in what they're doing until about 2 years of practice anyway. So I'm okay with that. I'm okay with just moving along with this.
So since you've been for 2 years now, do you watch a lot of medical dramas at all?
I know that is one of Ian's favorite questions to ask healthcare professional.
Yes.
He asked
How
me the same
realistic
one.
are any of them?
Gosh, I don't remember the last time I watched something medical. I know like Grey's Anatomy is super popular, but confession, I haven't watched it in forever. Or like I haven't watched it in like chronological order or anything. Yeah, other than that,
Why
I don't.
not? Yeah. So before we go into like the daily life, so that audience can understand like what you do every day.
Sure.
When you were in school, was it smooth sailing the whole time, or was there some time that you're like, oh, maybe this is not something for me? Because sometimes during pharmacy school, I definitely felt like that, especially when I got like a really bad grade or something, you know. Or if maybe it wasn't even school related, it was like friendships kind of dissolved and things like that. Maybe this is not for me, you know?
Yeah. I will just start off by saying nursing school is very hard. It is rigorous. It is really challenging, but it prepares you for like what you want to become at the end of it. Yeah, we had a very strict like learning requirement, I guess. I think we had to we had to complete every class with like a B or above or something.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah, like is 80% a B?
Yeah, around there.
I want to say
I think so.
it was 80% or something.
What?
But yeah, so there wasn't really room for you to fail if you wanted to keep moving forward in the program. There were like probation periods and like they wanted you to succeed. It wasn't like they were like bringing us down. Yeah. But yeah, so that part was difficult.
Because there's a saying, D's make degrees, and that does not work with nursing school.
Yeah.
Wait, so why would they even have any other grades then? They'll be like, anything under a B, you're done, you know?
Yeah,
like,
pretty much.
They wouldn't even have DOFs. It's just
I mean,
B.
that's what you're talking with the probation stuff, right?
Yeah.
Let's say
I see.
you're dropping your grade and you're on probation for right?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah, so if you're on probation on an F, that's tough to get up. But you're probation on like a C, maybe there's a chance of you getting back up.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
difficult.
Yeah, I really loved my program though. I felt very supported in all of my classes and with all my professors. Seattle University is also a pretty small university. So I knew all of my professors. I knew all of my cohort. I took the same classes with the same like 80 people.
Yeah.
See, that's one thing I regret not choosing a smaller school to go to. So I applied to Seattle University as well, but I also applied to University of Washington, and I chose that one instead. I got into both, but I chose UW, and afterwards I regret not choosing a smaller school because I think I would have done better academically if I was in a smaller environment versus like 200-300 person class.
Yeah. And you would have been a completely different person if you
Probably.
did. No, you wouldn't have. Get out of here.
Yeah, you're right.
So that brings up this question to me, which is, if you do a program where you like do 2 years of prerequisite outside and then you go into the nursing school, the prerequisite probably doesn't have any hands-on stuff. But when you go to the nursing school, there's a lot of hands-on stuff, I assume. Now, your program, when you first came in, was it hands-on stuff right away? Or was it still kind of like first 2 years, just try to keep your grades super high, try to get A pluses in the normal stuff, easy stuff? And then on the last 2 years, you can start failing a little bit so that, is it still mainly prerequisite stuff for your program the first 2 years and then really the hands-on stuff at the later 2 years? Or is it hands-on stuff the whole time?
I think the first 2 years were definitely like prerequisite stuff. It wasn't, some of those prerequisites wasn't always with nursing, but some of them were. So for example, our math classes, that was with anyone. Like you just took a math class or, I think I can remember math the most, but then like biology and chemistry, those were with my nursing or people who were in the nursing program. And those classes, while they were still general like biology and chemistry, they were just a little bit more leaning towards like nursing driven subjects.
Yeah.
Yes. And there were a couple of classes like anatomy and physiology where we were hands-on, but like I think that's like any A&P class where you're doing that stuff. But then once it hits your last 2 years, that's when it's only nursing classes pretty much. So it's like each specialty, each quarter you have like a specialty that you're studying, and then you're also practicing in the hospitals or at a clinical site.
So if I remember correctly, you just mentioned that nursing is really rigorous and whatnot, but you were also doing a lot of extracurricular activities at the time, like you were in VSA, SU. How was like, how did you manage all of that at the time?
I ask myself that today all the time. I don't know how I managed it while I was in university. I think it was a nice like escape. I wasn't necessarily like like dreading school, but it was just super nice, at least in the evening, like knowing at least like once a week in the evening, like I had something else to do. So I did VSA, and then I went home every weekend to do my Sunday extracurricular activities, which at the time in university, I was doing a lot more than I am right now, which is odd to say, but yeah, I was doing Yao Li, Bingo, and Tuni.
Is that what kept you from, because I kind of asked the question, was any time during nursing school you're like, this is not for me? And I didn't actually give you the opportunity to answer that, so I do apologize. But is it the extracurricular activities that kind of help you get through the nursing school, even though it took up so much time?
Maybe. I don't have a solid answer. I think I always knew that nursing was for me. It was definitely difficult. I don't think there was a moment where I was like, I think I was just in too deep. I was always in too deep. School is expensive. I was fortunate enough to have financial aid, but it's like now I feel like I really have to earn my place here, I guess.
Yeah.
And just like stick it through.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
The final question about school is, was it hard to get into nursing school?
I think so.
Okay. But you said it was a direct admit program, right?
Yeah.
So,
I know, but you still have to.
Oh, you have to.
You still have to get to the. You still have to get to the program.
Yeah, because my program was 80 people, but I can't imagine, or I don't know how many applicants there are.
Right.
80 people is not a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it must have been difficult to get in, to be honest with you.
So during, if this is right, let me know if this is wrong.
Sure.
Towards the end of your program, you get a pinning ceremony, right? How did it feel to have your sister pin you? Was it your sister?
Yeah.
Yeah. How did that feel? Be the nurse too.
It felt very good. Very like full circle moment. It's a memory that I am very fond of, and when I look back, and it's her contact picture, so I'm always reminded of it. But yeah, it was really nice. I also wore a white ao dai on my pinning ceremony, just to like in honor of like Vietnamese like students, like back then. So yeah.
And that's, I guess, the only reason why I know that, because I'm good friends with her sister. So. But yeah.
Yeah, you can use the same contact picture too if you want. So now you're out of school and you apply for your first job, which you kind of got right away.
Yes.
Is what it seems like. So every day, just normally every day, is it the same thing every day, kind of going through your patients? Can you just give me like a typical day in the life of Julie?
Sure. Okay. So to start off, it's usually a night in the life.
Oh.
I work at night.
Oh no.
So I work from 7 p.m. to 7:30 a.m. So 12-hour shifts. And I only work 2 to 3 nights a week. But that also means I'm spending like the first day before I work, and the day after my last day of working sleeping.
Yeah.
So it kind of becomes like a 4 to 5 days sometimes of me being unavailable. But I have FOMO, so I try to be involved during the daytime activities as much as I can.
So you try to switch out back to normal day pattern.
Yeah, I do. I try to, but sometimes it's really difficult. I was a night owl. I was always a night owl. I don't remember ever being a morning person, like even in school, like high school, university too. So there's that, but I'm a labor and delivery nurse, and so my patients, and I'm at like a more high acuity hospital or unit.
Okay.
And what does that mean?
We see like high risk patients. Whereas like the smaller hospitals in like our neighboring cities, they see less high risk. So my patients are anywhere from antepartum, which means like before birth. Some people come in like very premature and they have things to take care of that we will try to help with. And then people who are actively laboring. And then I also see postpartum patients. And then we also take care of the babies sometimes.
So you do that too?
Yes.
Okay.
Sometimes. We also do C-sections. So I'm a circulator. In the operations, and we do like their pre and post op too, but just for the C-section. So
gotcha.
Yeah.
So is it mostly when you come into work? Is it a lot more of the surgery part of it, the delivering part of it, that constantly happens throughout the day, or is that just like every now and then you take care of the babies afterwards?
Usually not. Yes, the delivery, but a lot of my shifts, because like the delivery is what, like probably like I would say 2 to 4 hours of like that process.
Oh yeah, I keep forgetting how long that moves.
Yeah,
Sorry.
like
you saw my wife. I don't remember.
most of it, especially like for first time parents, most of it is laboring. So, and laboring isn't just like them being in pain and then just like waiting for them to birth, but like as a nurse, we're like turning them in positions, getting them active, like you know, trying to help them progress in their labor. So that takes up a huge chunk of time.
I don't remember any of that.
Were you even there?
I was doing too new stuff. I'm joking.
But then when it comes birthing time, like pushing and then delivering and then recovering, that's like just like a small or a shorter amount of time usually, unless you know you've had a lot of babies and then you're fortunate enough to just labor quickly.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And then you stay with the moms afterwards too, right? Until they leave the hospital.
Well, for us, for our unit, the labor nurses, we get to stay with them in their recovery period. So that's 2 hours after birth, and then after 2 hours, they go down to the postpartum unit.
Gotcha.
So they have their own nurses. We just float there sometimes.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice for expecting mothers or parents, new parents, that would be useful before they go into the hospital?
Yeah, I definitely think informed parents are less anxious coming into the hospital. So if you're doing research before, or at least like talking to your provider in your appointments, kind of having an idea of what to expect, but also I highly recommend to come with like very loose expectations too, because labor is so unique and it's usually not linear. Things can go south, things can go great, but it might be a lot different than what you were expecting or hoping for. And so I think coming into this birthing experience with an open mind is super useful.
Nice. God willing, in a few more years, I hope to see you there.
Yes.
You mean your wife is there?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Oh, yeah. I'll be there too.
I hope you're there too.
I'll be there too. Yeah, of course.
Well, maybe Julie will be pregnant too. Is that? I thought that's what you meant, right?
No.
Yeah.
Come on, me.
I know, but it could mean either way. But yeah, so you go in and you potentially help people throughout the whole apparently long period before their delivery. They deliver, and afterwards you kind of help them up for 2 hours after, and then they go to the different part. When would a child still be there? Because after a while, the child gets transferred to somewhere else too, right? They don't stay in your unit. They stay with the mom. They go with the mom,
to
right?
postpartum.
So when do you normally take care of the child?
So
because you kind of mentioned that,
right?
Yeah.
So for labor nurses, we often only take care of them for like the first 2 hours of life.
Oh, that too. Gotcha.
So like catching the baby.
Yeah.
Not physically,
I
but
guess.
yeah, but during that time, it's their transition time. So
okay.
similarly to the moms, after they birth, the first 2 hours are the most critical. Things can, it's higher risk to like bleed out or the other complications. The same thing for the baby, like they're taking their very first breath. They're trying to regulate their temperature to this outside world after being inside for 9 months. So we're helping them transition to life for the first 2 hours.
So you are actually in the delivery room, right?
Yes.
Wow. So like a lot of crazy things go on sometimes.
Yeah. Not always crazy. Sometimes it's smooth, but sometimes, it can be crowded.
But these are high risk. She takes
Not
care
always.
of higher risk.
We can take care of
we
high
can.
risk.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And if it's such high risk, then that means that if there is an issue, then they will stay longer with you guys. Then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
What if a child needs to go, the baby needs to go on a ventilator or something? Do they stay in your unit, or do they go to like a higher acuity care even beyond you guys?
The latter. So they would go to the NICU. We have
okay.
a level 2.
I didn't want to say NICU because I was like, I don't know what
Neonatal intensive care unit. I know that. That was medical
It's all the stuff that he's watching. Yeah, I gotcha. So you guys are more of a transitional stuff, and then if it gets way worse, then it definitely go up higher than that. Gosh. Have there been any days where at the end of the day you're like, after your 12 hours, you're like, oh my gosh, you don't have to give specific details. It can be a yes or no, but you're like, I don't think I can do this anymore, because not because the job is, or your professional job is hard. It's more so any medical profession can be overwhelming certain times.
Drain
Sure.
on your
Yeah.
mental.
Yeah. Well, for me, I know, like maybe at like the end of one shift, like a really hard shift, I'll be really drained. But I don't think I ever thought of leaving. Again, I'm like pretty fresh, like a year and a half. I'm not like jaded yet or anything, but I just believe that I am exactly where I'm supposed to be. And I love the patient care that I provide. So even when things are difficult or I've had like a hard day at work, I know that like I showed up for my patient, and that in and of itself is rewarding for me. Yeah, and I before every shift, I always pray to God that He will help me to take the best care of my patients. And then at the end of every shift, I thank Him too for letting me be able to provide that care. So I think that just comforts me even in the hard days of work. But I don't ever think I didn't have a moment where like I wanted to not do this anymore.
Yeah. Jeez, that's scary. Do you have any questions? Because if you're gonna be a father, like what kind of stuff that should Vian be doing during the whole situation? Because I don't remember
the whole labor part.
Yeah, the labor
delivery?
part.
Awake.
Yeah.
Yes,
That would be nice.
Yes.
But also it depends too. So we sometimes have inductions. So that's when we induce labor on patients who sometimes either have like a complication or they're past their due date like pretty far. So that process can take a long time. And I do encourage both the mom and dad to, or mom and partner to sleep while you can, because it can be long. So I think resting is still definitely important. But in like the active moments, it's super helpful when partners are awake and like helping comfort their birthing partner and being awake and helpful. And also part of the care too. Like it's an informed decision usually between the both of you. So it's nice that they know that they have someone. And plus like I am a nurse that meets them at 7 p.m. and then says bye at 7:30. They've known you for however long that you've been in your relationship. It's so much, I think it's a lot more meaningful when they know that you believe in them. Whereas like me, like usually a stranger, like yes, I'm encouraging them, but they might not have my words might not have the same weight as yours.
So my fiance, she works as a laboratory scientist at UW Medical, and she does testing for newborns. So I'm actually wondering, when does that take place? Or if you know, like, so she gets samples from either the placenta or blood or something to check if there are any diseases that might affect the newborn. Do you know when that happens in the process? Because I have no idea actually.
So for I think that's the newborn metabolic screening. If it's that, then it happens. So like around like the next day that the one, so like within 18 after 18 hours of birth is when we collect ours. But then for other tests, like directly after birth, like something from the placenta or something from the umbilical cord, that happens like pretty much right after birth. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
So has anyone in Tilney, like the kids, have asked you about your job or anything like that? I'm surprised if they haven't, because it's really interesting what you do.
Yeah.
So.
I think maybe a couple have asked me like nursing questions, not necessarily
More
like
general.
labor. Yeah, general questions, which I'm also happy to help them with too. But
so if they wanted to get into labor and delivery, what would you recommend them do? I mean, is there anything, just go through nursing school and then just kind of apply for that specific job? Or do they need to get themselves mentally ready?
If they're able to get themselves mentally ready, like we have some of our care assistants on our unit. They're not nurses, but they're like similar to CNAs. I don't know if all of them have CNA degrees, but they are like patient care assistants. They get to help us too. Their scope is a little bit different than ours, but like that is also a way to kind of get into a field if you're fortunate enough to. I think it's pretty hard to get into like a specialized position though when you're like a patient care technician or a care assistant, but that's one way to kind of get your foot in the door. But for me, I didn't do that in school. I don't know how my classmates did it. They must have had really great time management. But definitely go to nursing school. That's probably the only way you're gonna get into labor.
That makes sense.
But yeah.
And are you planning to stay? I know you're kind of fresh and everything, but are you planning to stay in this position or switch to something different after a while?
I think I'll be here for a while. At least I want to be.
Yeah.
And specifically at this hospital too?
Yeah. One of the reasons
and even if she doesn't, she's going to say yes.
Yeah. I mean, that's true.
No, actually, one of the reasons why I love my job so much is that I have always felt supported by the people that are surrounding me. I think used to be a misconception, or actually I wouldn't say misconception because I'm sure it still happens, but like people say like nurses eat their young, because you can imagine like some of the
I have never heard that, but okay.
Really? Okay,
now I believe in it. I'm scared now.
No. So some nurses, especially like when we're in like nursing school and we go to clinicals, we're like super intimidated. Like these nurses have been here forever and now they have to like have this little shadow basically behind them. And sometimes it can burn them out. And on top of everything that they're dealing with too, it's hard to like have someone new with you, like doesn't know anything. And now on top of everything you're doing, you have to educate this
I imagine
seedling.
I imagine you've had to do that, right? At your job?
Yeah. Yes. I didn't really
new.
have to train students. I had to train new people.
Yeah.
But that's slightly different, right?
Yeah.
And pharmacy is a little more chill, to be honest with you. Because we have no hands. We have less hands-on stuff. So it's kind of like, But nursing, I can't imagine because at the end of the day, it's like you have a lot of hands-on stuff you got to do and get it done. And you have someone kind of behind you doing this, you know?
Yeah.
So have you had a lot of situations where the patient is not communicating well or the parents, like the husband is not communicating well and you just kind of wish they would speak more, versus...
Or speak less now.
Yeah, or speak less, right? Like if you had a perfect patient, like you have to pick between the two, like a patient that would talk nonstop, right? And you're like, okay, I'm overwhelmed by what you're saying, but you're giving me a lot of information I have to filter out. Versus a patient that you have to poke and prod and like, come on, tell me something. I don't know how well you're doing. Like, which one would you prefer?
Probably the one that's telling me a lot more.
Yeah.
I think labor, or actually anything. I think it's hard because in the hospital, you're seeing patients. Like for us, it's a normal day. For patients, it's either like the worst day of their life, or at least in my unit, usually it's not the worst day. It's a good day, but it's something different. It's it can be painful. Being in the hospital isn't comfortable, and so I think there's a lot of feelings that patients may have that they're not communicating, and it's hard for me to provide the best care without knowing that. So I do appreciate it when patients tell me how they're feeling, especially in labor. Pain changes people. Yeah, and during those moments, I just want to provide the most that I can for them. Yeah.
Do you find that a lot of them use epidurals or do they just go naturally for that?
I would say probably like
90%?
like 90% of my patients that I've seen get epidurals. Yeah, or more. I don't know. I don't know the actual percentage, but I feel like most of my patients end up getting epidurals. My hospital does have a midwifery birth center, though. So patients who are seeing midwives and prefer an unmedicated birth, they are able to deliver there. So it's really nice. And people have unmedicated deliveries in hospitals too.
Yeah.
It's just, it's available to you at any time.
Yeah, my wife was needing an epidural at one point, but by the time it was too late. Yeah, it was too late. Yeah, the doctor came.
But the first kid, second kid.
Yeah, I actually don't remember. I think it was the first kid. My wife was going to correct me and yell at me when I came home. But again, I don't remember.
Yeah.
And your schedule, one final question is, your schedule is like really difficult. I mean, honestly, I don't know if this is true or not, but I think people who work night shift, I think it makes the sleeping pattern kind of changes and maybe kind of ruins or kind of decrease the lifespan by a little bit. I'm not sure that's true or not.
Yeah.
So I'm like, is this in the future, would you prefer a different schedule or you actually like your life the way it is now?
I do like it. I've always been a night owl, so it's not hard for me in like actually like functioning at night. But I would just say like the flip-flopping can get pretty difficult, and I don't know how it's going to be when if I'm fortunate to have kids, like how that is going to play a role in my life. I will say though, some of my nursing coworkers that had young kids, they said that it was nice working at night because then they could make it to daytime activities. You just kind of have to sacrifice your sleep for it. But whereas like if you're working during the day, there's like no chance, or not that there's no chance, but during those days it's hard to get off or
Has working with nursing and I guess even little babies and screaming moms, has that helped you with Tilny in any way? Just curious. Has it helped you deal? I guess assume it kind of helps you be more calm, I guess.
Yeah.
With the whole situation. Because you're seeing, because I imagine like an ER doctor sees, or nurse too, sees death every day. So when they deal with others everyday stuff, it's probably not as big of a deal if something bad happens. And then you're dealing with life every day, pretty much, right? Because you're seeing new life every day.
Yeah.
So that kind of gives you a crazy perspective, I assume. Dealing with like the annoyance of EFC complaining about things, right?
Yeah. I think it has. I think nursing school and my career has helped me to communicate a lot better with like everyone else in my life too. There was a course in nursing school. I can't forget. It was probably like professionalism in nursing or something like that, where they teach us about like therapeutic communication, and that's like incorporated in every class that I took. But it's just like how to communicate with patients, but also it's so useful to use that with people too. Like when is silence good, or like how don't ask questions why, or like why in like an accusing way or something. So I think it's definitely helped my communication skills, and then also just looking at life a little bit differently, because you're right, I see life every day, but it's not sunshine and rainbows every day. We see some hard things. I do think it's nice though that I don't have to take work home with me. Just I like the skills that I have, like personal skills I can take home, but like what I see at work, I can leave at work. I don't have to take it home.
Nice. Yeah. I was going to ask, so you're you're in labor and delivery, but let's say if a general issue came up, or they asked you to help out in a different department, would you be able to adapt in those situations?
Probably not.
No?
There's no way.
No, I don't think so. Yeah. Maybe some like very basic things, but I think there are people that are much more skilled in those specialties, or even the general stuff. I respect those nurses so much. I don't think I can do it.
So if I got a stab wound right now, that you can't help me.
I mean,
I'm kidding. I know.
No, even if she can help you, she wouldn't.
Hey, let me die. Let me die.
She can put something on it, right?
I also wanted to clarify something from earlier. So the nurses at my place don't eat their young, by the way.
She's like, I experienced it, firsthand.
I'm gonna ask your sister.
At least in my unit, they want all of us to succeed, and they don't want us to, screw up. So,
of course.
I think it's, at least in my unit, it's definitely changed. I think work environment culture is super duper important in where you want to work or where you're working.
Yeah.
We have some people who left their previous facilities because they didn't like the culture there. But I love my coworkers. I love the support that I'm receiving and the lifelong learning that they encourage on new nurses. So
nice.
Super important.
I do want to make a comparison, and just please jump in if I'm completely off. That in pharmacists, nurses, and doctors, just so you know, we all hate each other. I'm just kidding, we don't. But when pharmacists, we tend to be not always hands-on. It's a lot of working with medication and stuff like that. So sometimes looking at a computer screen, people can just become a number. And sometimes at the end of the day, especially my kind of job, it's like, did I do anything? Kind of like computer science, no offense to that, but it's like you just like that, right? Did I do anything? Yeah. And when it comes to doctors, they are all hands-on, but the way the medical system kind of works right now is they're hands-on, but if they own their own practice, they have to do a lot of billing and they have to do a lot of admin paperwork. So at the end of their day, they're like, oh my gosh, it's like, I want to be hands-on, but I'm spending half of my time doing admin stuff, paperwork. And that's why when I see the way you speak, it's like, I can't imagine that every day it's hands-on. There's documentation, of course, but at the end of the day, you're like, I felt like I did something to make a change in someone's life versus looking at a computer screen and saying that's just a number. To me, I think that's one of the main reasons that people want to go into nursing and want to be a doctor. Like I mentioned, unfortunately, a doctor kind of move away from that a little bit. But it seems like that's one of the main reasons people still want to go to nursing and it's one of the most trusted profession because they're every day one-on-one making changes in people's lives and making at the end of the day, you feel like you changed someone's life. So that's really cool. I really appreciate that you're doing something like that. And I can't imagine feeling that fulfilled at the end of the day at work for sure. So I assume you feel like that. I could be completely off.
Thank you. I think you worded that really nicely. Beautifully.
Yeah, I was chat GPTing while you were talking. That's what I said. So
but yeah, I think the hands-on aspect of my job is one of the best parts. I think that's also probably why I didn't want to be like a provider right off the bat in university, because especially at least in the inpatient setting, the nurses are there with you, especially labor nurses too. We're fortunate to have like truly a one-on-one most of the time with actively laboring patients. So I am putting like, during those 12 hours, like my energy, my attention is to care for this patient. Yes, there's documentation, but like, at least for me, I will always put like my patient first, and then I can document later. Although documenting is super important too.
Yeah. I think if you can find a job where you're like not constantly on your phone looking at personal stuff, because it's constantly like making you engage in the job, I think that's probably the kind of job, even if it's a job that is not like the best or not like the most high paying or not the most exciting, but if it forces you to engage with people, you feel like you're doing something every day for sure. So, but do you have any final advice for any potential people that wants to get into nursing? Any kids still that wants to get into nursing or anything? Before we kind of wrap up.
Yeah, don't give up. It's hard, but it's so rewarding and so fulfilling. Nursing, the profession will always be there for you whenever you're ready for it. In my cohort of nursing residents, or I was a resident before I was like on my own. So kind of like that orientation training period, I had like nurses who were like 40 plus, just starting their career now after having like a family of their own. So it's always there for you. Don't feel like you're in a rush.
Thank you, Julie, for stopping by and sharing your story with us. It was very profound, and to hear some of the things you said. So you're doing amazing work.
Yeah, thank you. And we look forward to working with you. I look forward to working with you this year.
I do too.
At Doan.